Okay guys, now we're going to get to the one where we discuss the 5 different primers and their performance, and I also want to discuss just right now in 2023, not a year later. You know, if you look at some of these videos, they're a year, 2 years old. I mean, right now, currently in February of 2023, the situation with primers in general, no matter who made it. And of course, you guys know the same old spiel at the beginning of all of these. Like, subscribe, and Patreon if you can. Alright, so let's talk about primers in general. When you go and look about the performance of these 5 brands in front of me here, and no matter where you go, be it a YouTube video, be it a gun board, be it a weapons discussion board, blog, whatever you want to call it, just where people would write something, a message. Any one of these brands, this one here, they're too popular, they're available right now. You will find anything from where these things are fine, they're great, to where they're total garbage and crap, and I get a 40-50% failure rate when I reload my ammo with these primers. Now you're going to ask yourself, well, how is that? Okay, first of all, again, a lot of it is just somebody making their opinion or their experience with it. And this is why I want to bring up a point. Please, in this whole series, if you have any comments or issues, or if you have used any of these primers, please put your experience down in the comments. This is a collective to help everyone get an idea, because I've had people that told me this brand here, this ZSR. Okay, there's people that made several videos that say this stuff functions fine, functions in all their guns, and they went out and actually shot the ammo in 3 or 4 different guns of a couple different calibers with these primers and had no failures. I got a comment from a guy that had 2 revolvers, and these aren't budget guns. It's a Smith & Wesson and a Ruger revolver, 38-57 Magnum, and he said he gets all these weird light strikes with these primers in his revolvers, which the guns have never done this in all the years he's owned them with any ammunition he's put into them. Okay, so this whole assessment you got to take with a grain of salt. And in my limited testing, in my, I don't have a laboratory. I mean, there was one guy that actually broke these primers down and measured the cups, to within the thousands, the diameter, depth, thickness. He used the correct machinist tools to do this. There is a video out there, and if you watch it, you will see that the variance between this is maybe a thousandth and a half between any of these, which is kind of, when you're mass producing billions of these little tiny things, it's kind of an acceptable variance, but it's there. But a lot of them were very consistent and exactly the same. So, even getting real technical. All right, so I'm going to explain to you the situation. That's why I said currently. And I'm going to give you a reason why I believe that we run into problems, where some people do run into problems and some people don't. And if you're looking for a quick, surefire answer, just that this is good, this is bad, well, I can't give you that, because that's just not the way the situation is. Like it or not, the situation is more complex with more variables in it. And if you just look at it with a very shallow skimming, just tell me if it's good or bad, in 60 seconds in a short, then you're just going to frustrate yourself and end up, being angry. So let's start. Let's start first of all with everything and all the comments I heard. The number one thing about primers is the availability, and when they are available, the cost. this aggravates the shit out of a lot of people, okay? Because realistically, these foreign primers before the ammo crisis, something like this would cost $20, $25 a box, when brand name CCI or something like that would be $30 for 1,000, a carton of 1,000, okay? So now we're paying close to $100 per 1,000 for something that 3 years ago was $20 per 1,000. And for those of you that, you know, actually really get into it, you go to a store, and I knew a guy, he went to a local shop, the guy would sell him one sleeve of 100 primers, you know, brand name primers, for 30 bucks. And he can only buy one. If he wanted a second one, he had to come back the next day, pay him $30, and that's $300 1,000 buying them like that. This is the way it's been for years. A lot of people complain. A lot of people don't like the idea of brands that you've never heard before or have no idea where they're coming from and paying an exorbitant amount of money for them. That is the number one complaint about primers across the board. People have told me that they've had to pay $150, $200. Somebody even mentioned something that by the time the hazmat fees and all this other stuff is close to $300 for 1,000 primers. Okay, when is this going to go away? I don't know. Okay, because with the gun legislation and everything going on now, there could be another panic before we get out of this, and it'll just be off the charts again. Now another thing, some people say is even reloading. Why waste the time, the effort, and everything else when you figure at $100 1,000, you can purchase for about $260 1,000 rounds of loaded ammunition. Okay, so now you're talking really in reality, figuring out the powder, the bullets, and the cases. You know, I'm only saving a couple cents a round, plus if you add your labor in there, it's actually more expensive to reload than to buy 9mm ammo. But on the other hand, there are a lot of different calibers out there that are not that plentiful, like 38 Special, 9mm Makarov, and all this other stuff, to where reloading still can be, you know, useful. The reason I did my testing with 9mm is I have an assortment of 9mm handguns in my collection, and it is a common caliber and something everyone likes, so that's why we went with it. So, nobody likes the price thing, okay? Next comes an explanation of why you get all these wild variations. And I will go over this in these, is with the shortage. This is the worst one ever. The shortage of ammo. Thrown in the fact the whole world got shut down with the pandemic, and all mining, shipping, disruption of the supply chain, closing of factories because of quarantines, and that this disruption of the raw materials and the transport has hurt the quality of all materials manufactured, produced, and given to us now. Okay, so there's quality issues, all right, inconsistency in the quality of the primers, because I've had people send me a comment saying that somebody recently bought, in Winchester primers, I've seen them pop up. They're a little bit more expensive. They're about another 20 bucks a box other than these. But Winchester primers are available. And people say, hey, Winchester is like a standard. They're good primers. Okay, a lot of people prefer them out of any US-made brand for consistency and performance. But the guy was telling me that him and his father reloaded this ammo, and they got a high number of, he said, duds, which probably would be like strikes. Okay, and another thing, some people only own a few handguns, 1, 2 maybe, okay? and they only load ammo for these specific guns. And sometimes the inconsistency of these primers will not function in a particular weapon. Okay, when I did the testing, I had a Taurus G3C that I knew the light strike problem. When I bought factory ammo, these different brands, okay, I get a lot of light strikes. I have a Stoeger STG9 SC that no matter what, anything that would not go off in any gun tested, be it factory ammo or reloaded with these primers, I'd stick those cartridges in the Stoeger and they would go off. Okay? Again, variance in the manufacturing tolerances of the gun. It can be slight. It can only be 1,000ths. Doesn't make the gun bad. Just if you change a variable, like these primers are all a little bit harder than normal US primers, okay, you will run into problems. So, how does this all break down to us? Okay, like I said, the one thing I can say in general is most of these primers, the cups and the material made out of the cups are harder, all right, than normal. It could be because the material being produced is not the same quality as pre-pandemic material. Because that one pistol I had that didn't like any of this recently produced ammo would fire pre-pandemic ammo without a trouble, no matter what brand. So, goes to tell you. So we can assume that all of these 5 that I tested are probably going to be harder, and if you have a gun that is sensitive or has issues, because striker fired 9mm polymer frame guns are probably the most popular gun out there right at this point in time, and striker fired guns, that's probably going to be a weak spot, is a variance in your consistency of the hardness of the primers. Now, granted, I've heard people with hammer-fired revolvers had problems. So, all right. So, we'll go over most of them, and just bearing all that in mind, this is what we had. Now, these Argentine primers, they're probably the most reasonably priced. And what I read about them is this company just started making this. They had the machinery or material or something. Started making these primers, and they did it just to get in on the market because of the demand. Now, an honest opinion was when they first come out, there was quality control issues with them, okay? They had a bunch of quality control issues, and they straightened it out, but then after the first few production runs, they got it to where it's acceptable. And these primers, they looked nice. There was no inconsistencies or roughness on the edges of the cups or anything. They fed into the case as well. But the only thing is, when my gun had the weaker spring in it, it had a 50% failure rate. These primers are harder. But then once I changed the spring in one gun, these primers functioned in all the others. I think I had a light strike in a Taurus GX4 with these primers, but no other failures. So, these here, I'm going to say, if you're sensitive to hard primers, stay away from them. But other than that, the accuracy was fine in these, and the feeding and going up into the cases was fine in them. And again, with this lot, okay? And they all did go off. ZSRs. Now, I seen a guy testing ZSR ammo, and same thing. He was using Glocks, fired them. He had a couple light strikes or whatever, but second time around they went off. These, I believe, have a quality control problem. Like I said in my video, the edge of the cup was kind of rough, where you could see the tool to stamp it was dull and leaving a rough finish. These were difficult to see and get into the thing, the case. And also in the feed tubes, going in the feed tube was a little bit difficult and everything else. But they all did go off, except I had one light strike in the BRG9. And that I think was because their striker mechanism was dirty and gummed up with protective oil from shipping. And I believe I corrected that. But then again, in my testing of 50 rounds, which may not be enough, all of these cartridges, other than the one light strike, went off. Okay. Then we go on to this. This is the MX. It's another Turkish one. The MKE. MKE, and this was not really designed for retail as a civilian reloading, but these primers went in really good, and these are from Turkey. They went in well, they look good, the cups look good, they went in a take-up tube, so feeding through your priming system was good, and they in general went off and gave good accuracy, noticeably good accuracy. The accuracy with these was not that stellar. Actually, the accuracy with the ZRSRs were the worst. Accuracy with the Argentine stuff when it went off was good. Okay, this was very accurate primer. The MKE was an accurate primer. The UNIX accuracy was average, not really bad, but not noticeable. And Murmon, the accuracy was very good. Okay. But like I said, going back to quality in that. These here, I believe they were a little bit more difficult going up into the feed tube. These MREs went very well into the feed tube. They're well finished, rounded. These were a little bit sticky, but average when you were seating them. These here, the MREs, were easy in seating. And then when we go to the Murmon, again, the same observation was made. When I looked at the edge of the cups, there was a roughness on the edge of the primer cups, much like the ZSRs. Now, this may be just for the lot. This was maybe because the tooling got done when they made it, and this lot number could be like that. And you could buy one made 6 months, a year later. It won't be the same. But again, this one a little bit difficult going up into the feed mechanism. Also, a lot of pressure was needed to seat these. So I believe these two brands had the same thing in common. An issue with tooling being dull and being slightly off. Still, they detonated, they went off and everything else, but I noticed that when it had the roughness on the edges, both of these were very hard to seat into the cases. Like I said, I got to the point where everything was going off, no light strikes, and the consistency of it. So this was fairly accurate. This was noticeably inaccurate. The MKEs were accurate. Gimmicks, which is also very common, you can find these out there. Accuracy was okay, and Murmon accuracy was excellent. Okay, so that is a variable in there. But two of them were difficult to see in that, and that could be just piss poor quality control, because I've seen people with videos that didn't have that problem. So these are all variables in there that make a difference. And then, yeah, like I said, I've heard where people have bought Winchester brand and they have the same issues of the light strikes or duds, they say duds, in their cartridges. Because some of these in the same gun, whether you fire it 3-4 times, it won't go off. But yet then I take that cartridge, put it in another gun, and it would go off. So that's the truth of the matter. I did have a handgun that would detonate all of these primers no matter what. Okay, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. As for my recommendations overall, okay, we'll go through each one of them. This here, if you have a gun that has problems with light strikes, or if you're having it with ammunition, I would avoid this. It's not bad. This is reasonably priced. It goes up into the case as well, and when they do go off, they are accurate. The ZSR, I've had trouble with. I kind of avoid it right at the moment, because right now, if they're bringing a huge shipment in, you don't know if this is a lot that'll have this problem with the hard seating and all that other fun stuff. I kind of avoid these, and I don't think I'll buy these again. These MKEs, very good accuracy, loaded up on average, nothing unusual, and in my minuscule testing of just 50 rounds, I did not have a light strike problem or anything with the firearms used. Okay, I can't make no guarantees if you got something with light strikes. These UNIX MURMON are quite common. They're around. They're from Bosnia-Herzegovina. Accuracy wasn't stellar, but they did go off. And the one downside of this is a lot of people complain that if you buy these are packaged in 5,000 round cartons, or 5,000 unit cartons. They don't have standard 1,000 unit cartons, and that's why I bought this repackaged. I found somebody selling these that they repackaged them 1,000 to a package other than the 5,000. And some people just can't afford, it's close to $450–500 to buy 5,000 of those primers. And that's just out of somebody's reach, okay? Bad enough. Murmon, the accuracy was there. They went off. I haven't heard a lot of people complain about these as being hard primers. Actually, there's several people out there who have used these an awful lot, because this is probably, again, this stuff is available. You can find it easily, and it's priced down somewhere $60–70, 1,000 for these primers. But again, like I said, it looks like the Turkish ones. There's a quality control problem with this lot, and they're kind of difficult to load up, and that may upset some people or just be a royal pain in the ass getting it through there, but their performance is good. So that's about all I can say. And like I said, there is no easy answer. That's my opinion of it. I will eventually use all of these primers one way or the other. You know, maybe these would be good in a .38 revolver, and I'll just load a bunch of .38 ammo with these and fire them in my Smith. Same thing with these. I may find a pistol, an older pistol that just, you know, can handle this and will run these, even though they're a pain to load, but I'll eventually use them all, one way or the other. So that's my take on it. I hope that my efforts helped you guys get some clarity on this, you know. And like I said, please comment and make it a collective where people, when they see this and read the comments, it'll help other people make a decision on whether or not to purchase this.